Welcome back to the Beyond the Bestseller podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Schuknecht, and today's guest is Debbie Compton, author of a number of books. But we are going to start with The Caregiver's Advocate, Volume 1 and Volume 2. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, well, you and I connected through a mutual friend, professional network person, right?
Yes.
And for a different purpose. Yeah, but you told me about your books, and I thought I would like to have you come on. The topic of being a caregiver, I feel like is I don't know, maybe it's because of my stage of life. I'm hearing that more and more that it really impacts people. And we talked about what you do and kind of your what your books are about or who they're intended to help. And I really felt like it was important to help get your message out there. So start us out by tell us about Caregiver's Advocate, why there's volume one, volume two, and what those books are all about.
Yes, I would love to. Well, the caregiver's advocate came about because I was uh, Laura DeFranco reached out to me. She's the publisher of Brave Healer Productions, and she had realized that she didn't do a book in support of caregivers, yet many of the people that that were in her sphere are caregivers. And so she asked me if I'd like to be lead author on a collaboration series. So I was like, sure. I don't know exactly what that means, but why not? And we did. And when I gathered 20, 21 different people from around the globe, because I thought, you know what, caregiving is not limited to just the US, it's a worldwide issue and that no one trained you for. That's why it becomes an issue. You just feel like overnight, all of a sudden, you're a caregiver and you're not prepared, and all of a sudden, you have to be an expert in all these different topics that quite often you don't know anything about. So it's very stressful, and I um, I became more aware of that because I had my plan in place, and I was working in corporate America, and I had been with the company 15 years. My plan was to retire there and, you know, that was it. But my mom had vascular dementia. I didn't know enough to realize that we were going to need more solutions than what I had in place. And my dad developed Parkinson's, which added to the mix. And so I quickly realized that I couldn't keep traveling coast to coast and take care of my parents at the same time. And so I left corporate America and became a full time caregiver for the two of them. And then at the same time, my mother in law started getting worse. And so then when my dad passed away, my mother in law was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So I picked up caregiving for her as well. It was the hardest job I've ever done. And it was such a challenge. I mean, I led teams nationwide, and people think that that's hard, and it is hard, but I mean, caregiving, way harder. So I gathered these people from 4 different countries and asked them to write one chapter on something they wish they would have known when they started the caregiving journey, something that would have helped them have an easier time. And my goal was to hit number 1 in at least one category of the US. I was so shocked. It hit number 1 in all 6 US categories, number 1 in Canada, number 1 in Australia, top 50 in the UK, and Amazon number 1 new release. And I was like, "Oh, this is amazing. This is so cool." Because caregivers need the information and they need the help. And I had people contacting me and saying, "Why didn't you write about this? And why didn't you write about that?" And I'm going, "Because it's only one book. I can't put everything in one book." So quickly figured out, okay, we need to do volume 2. So we did volume 2. It came out last year. It did the same thing, number 1 in all these categories, and this time also number 1 in the UK. So it was just, oh, it's so fantastic. And I'm currently, we're just starting volume 3. So
Okay.
that'll be well, my plan is that that's the trilogy for that, but you never know. But we're going to see what comes next. But they don't repeat. The books are different. They cover different topics, different living situations, different diseases, all sorts of things. But the thing that sets it apart is that we don't teach theory. We teach what we know has worked for us because everyone who has written a chapter has been a caregiver. So they have the professional training, many of them, some don't, but most do. And then you also have the lived experience. And so we've had two neurologists say that they learn things from reading our books. So I'm blown away. I'm so honored to be a part of that. And then to see the all 5-star reviews, it's like, who does that?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like I said, the topic is so so I keep hearing it, right? But it's so necessary right now. One of the I went to an event last year, and one of the speakers talked about how everyone is in one of four categories. Either, and I don't know if you've heard this before.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
going to mess it
Eleanor
up.
Roosevelt said it first.
Will you say it? Because you'll probably say it better than me. Then you're already familiar with it.
Oh, well, that's okay. I may mess it up now.
Well,
Everyone, everyone falls into one of four categories. You either are a caregiver, you have been a caregiver, you're going to need a caregiver. It's in your future. See, I messed it up. What was the fourth one?
or you will be a caregiver,
You
I
will
think. So
be,
it's
or
like,
it's
yeah,
coming soon.
yep,
Yes,
yep,
or you will be a caregiver.
yeah,
Because the biggest risk factor for Alzheimer's is old age, and we're living longer.
right,
And we've
right,
got the baby boomer generation that's the largest generation in history that are all aging. Who's going to take care of them? Somebody's going to
right,
have to,
right.
and we need to teach them how to do that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and me being at my phase of life, like, my parents are, doing well, right? Like, they're okay right now, but I watched them deal with my grandma who
Mhm.
had, I don't know if she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, but she had dementia.
Mhm.
And then, I've heard about, like, this phase of life is so hard because you're still caring for children, right?
Yes.
And then your parents are starting to maybe deal with some of those things, or you could either be already dealing with it or you will be soon, right?
Mhm.
And you're still working a career, like you mentioned, you're being in this job. It's a lot to juggle for people, and it's a lot to
Yes.
to handle.
It
Yeah,
really is. It's so challenging, and you feel like it happens overnight, and sometimes it does. Like in the case of a stroke or a heart
right,
attack or some health event, it can happen overnight, but most of the time it comes on slowly, so it's like boiling that frog. You don't even notice. You just start doing more and more things. And when I was first caring for mom and dad, I didn't relate to being a caregiver. I didn't look at that at all. I was just a daughter helping out her parents. I was just
yeah,
doing what I needed to do. That's it. And it wasn't until a lady said, "So you're helping with medications?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." And she said, "And do you take them to the doctor visits?" "Yes." And I talk to the doctor and I write down all the information. "Okay, you're a caregiver." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
yeah,
But it
yeah.
wasn't a term that I resonated with.
Yeah, yeah, but you just find yourself there,
Hmm.
and suddenly you're dealing with it. Now, like I said, my parents are not dealing with, or we're not yet dealing with anything like dementia or Alzheimer's, but that's another layer of caregiving that is, an extra challenge, right? So
Yes.
you're dealing with somebody who you're losing before you lose them, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and you were dealing with multiples at the
Hmm.
same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why, well, and what happened, my mother-in-law, was in our guest room. We'd moved her in with us the last year of her life, and I had hospice come in much too late because I just didn't know any better, and the
Yeah.
hospice nurse saw some of the things that my husband and I had created, and it's, the bed alert system and the door safety system and stuff, and she said, "Where did you read about that?" And I just, like, started laughing. I'm like, "I didn't read about it anywhere. The stuff on the market did not work for us, so I had to make something that would." And she's the one who changed the trajectory of my life because she said, "Other caregivers need to know about this. This would
Mhm.
really help them." And I couldn't believe it. I was just floored because I thought, hey, I'm the last one to the party. I'm the only one that doesn't know what she's doing here. And everybody else has it figured out. I'm over here flailing, and which I know now is absolutely not true, but I didn't know at the time. And that's the way I felt because caregiving is very isolating. and you're not dealing with a rational brain. Therefore, the things that you tell people don't make sense. And they either think you're a little goofy or, you're exaggerating or something because, who takes Fixodent and puts it on their lips for lipstick? My mother-in-law, that's who did.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I got there quickly to wash it off before her lips were sealed. But you just go through a lot of crazy things, and so when the hospice nurse said that, that's when I'm a Christian, and so I prayed about it, and I went to bed that night. And when I woke up the next morning, I knew, okay, this is why you went through this. You and we're going through it. You need to help other people. You need to share what
Yeah.
you've learned. So that's when I wrote my first book, which is Caregiving: How to Hold On While Letting Go.
Yeah.
And it alludes to exactly what you're talking about because you have grief through the whole journey. You're losing that connection, you're losing that relationship, you're losing that person that you've loved and adored, and you still love them, but it's different. You can't
Yeah.
have those talks with them anymore. They don't have
Right.
rational thought. And then when they forget who you are, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And so yeah, dementia is particularly difficult. Dementia caregivers have the highest stress of any caregivers, according to the
Yeah.
surveys that they've done, and they tend to pass away faster than the one they're caring for many times, and a staggering over 60%, which is horrible. So I am working to change that. It doesn't have to be that way. We need to, you need to talk to someone. Give me a call. I can give you ideas and suggestions and help because when you're in the moment, you're completely stressed out. When you're stressed out, you're tight, you're limiting the oxygen to your brain. You can't think creatively. I'm not
Yeah.
stressed about your situation. So I can help you come up with good solutions. And having done it 3 times, I've probably seen it before
Right.
and have some solutions that can help.
Yeah. Yeah. Now talk to me about that person in that professional environment who's trying to juggle going to work and also caregiving. I mean, you made a choice to just leave
I
because
did. Well,
that's what you needed to do.
I tried, at first, I tried to make it work. But I was on the East Coast when dad accidentally took mom's pills. He had low blood pressure. She had high blood pressure. He's nearly comatose and had to be rushed to the hospital. I live in Oklahoma, right in the center of the US, so I couldn't get there. Then I was on the West Coast and my mom passed out at the Daily Living Center and had to be rushed to the hospital. Again, I couldn't get there very quickly. And then the third strike, because I think I'm stubborn or a slow learner, uh, is when I was in Colorado and my mother-in-law locked herself out of her house in the middle of a snowstorm. She did not have the mental clarity to walk next door to the neighbors that she'd known for over 40 years. Instead, she got in her car and sat in her car for 7, 8 hours
Oh my
until her daughter
goodness.
got home from work. And that was the last straw. It's like, we are very fortunate she did not freeze to death and die right there. Something, and we didn't know at that time that she had Alzheimer's. We just knew she was forgetting things. She's acting a little different.
Yeah.
We didn't know exactly what was going on. But that's when I realized, okay, I can't do this. I cannot be gone every time something happens. And it just felt like that's what was going on. So
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
were more important.
Now, what about people who don't have that option? I mean, what if you have to be working, right? Like, so
Yeah.
what do you recommend for people like that, or how do you help people like that, like, navigate their current situation and how to be 2 people, how to clone themselves or be 2 people at
Yeah.
once?
They can do what I did in the beginning too, because you can Google Daily Living Center near me because that's what I did with mom and dad in the beginning. The Daily Living Center would come and pick them up, take
Mm,
them to the Daily Living Center. They hang out with other people, they have fun, they play games, they feed them lunch, they do all this stuff, and then they drive them back home. So they were busy through the day. And then, and I did that Tuesday through Thursday with them because that's when I traveled. And quite often that's when I would be gone. So that worked for quite a while and it was a good solution. There also look around you, and that's what I do when I talk to somebody. It's like we evaluate the whole picture, see what's going on. Are there other people who could help out? Because quite often, which really always, I haven't seen any situation where there totally is no one who can help, because we have agencies that support people that come in, and you don't have to pay for them if your income level is at a certain level, not yours, but your parents, if that's who you're caring for.
Mm.
Then they can qualify for a lot of free care and free help. So I also encourage people to talk to the Department of Human Services because they can tell you what's available. Your doctor, primary care physician, can tell you of places that are free or are willing to help in your area. And, when you've exhausted all those things and things still don't work out, if you go to church, you have a church family there. Something that I did several times was that we had a sweet little lady at our church that was cognitively aware, but she couldn't drive anymore. And she would get pretty lonely and stuff. And so after dad had passed away, I called her and said, "Hey, if I come and pick you up, would you like to watch a movie with mom?" And she said, "Sure, I'd love to." So I took mom with me. We go and pick her up. We bring them back to my house, sit them on the couch, give them their iced tea and their snacks. And then they're watching a movie for 2 hours. That's 2 hours where I am free to go garden, to read a book, to soak in a tub, to do whatever I want to do. It's fantastic. It's a great thing. And it helped her because it gave her a sense of purpose and
Mm.
it made her feel good because I needed her and she was really
Mhm.
meeting a need. So and
Yeah,
mom loved it, somebody new to talk to. She had a great
yeah,
time.
yeah, 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 that's great. Now, what are some things that corporations can do, organizations can do to help employees who are dealing with that so that they don't leave like you did? What are there do you have recommendations around ways that organizations can be more caregiver friendly?
Yes. Oh, and my goodness, we need that so much because, yeah, that would have made a huge difference in my career if something like that would have been possible. And so now, thanks to COVID, we're much more familiar with remote learning or remote
Yeah,
training, remote working. That helps so much, and that's why I do Zoom consultations with caregivers over Zoom so that they don't have to get their loved one out, drag them somewhere where they're not comfortable, they're keeping an eye on them, they can't focus on what they're trying to say to me, and it's a stressful environment. But what they do is they schedule a time when their loved one is usually taking a nap or watching TV or doing something,
yeah,
and then they can talk and they know their loved one is still safe. So companies really need to recognize that this is a huge issue. It's not just a few people that are caregivers, and they're not all middle age or older either. There are many teenagers that are caregivers. And so that's something that they need to be aware of. Work with the person, create an environment where they're not afraid to tell you that they are
yeah,
a caregiver. And then you can
right,
also bring in training because I go in and teach caregiver tips and ideas, things to make caregiving easier. And then the caregiver with that knowledge can make their environment easier so they don't have to miss as much work. There's a lot of things that you can do, but
yeah,
again, nobody trains you for it. You're not prepared for it. You don't know. You have no idea. And so that's why I'm real honest in my books and stuff. I'm not the person over here that has it all figured out, but I've done a whole lot of things that you shouldn't do. And so,
yeah, yeah.
and so, when you have three of them, I took two of them shopping. That was not fun. Um, but,
That's good,
you
quite a
know,
visual.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well. I mean, I had them each put one hand on the basket as I was pushing because I went to go get groceries, which now you don't have to do that. Order them online and have them sent in.
Right,
I
right,
could have done it at that point in time, but I just wanted to get out of the house, and I thought it would be okay. It was challenging.
yeah, yeah. You learned a lesson there, yeah, I get
Yep,
it.
that was the
What are
only
some of
trip.
the Yeah. What are some of the other lessons? Well, it and, in my way, it reminds me of, when I had 3 kids on at 3 kids within 4 years.
Mm,
So, I remember going to the grocery store and having, 1 walking, 1,
yes,
holding my hand,
stopping.
and 1, in a carrier and whatever, like that whole you're doing
Yeah,
that, and, yeah, it's chaos, but
yes,
there are times where I mean, I guess when they're older, like, maybe they're that you, I was gonna say there's times where you can't avoid it, like, you
right,
have to do things, right? And I
right.
guess maybe I mean, in both situations, it's like, yeah, if you have somebody to help you, somebody who can come in and watch them for a little while, but it is like having 3 young
Yes,
children that you're juggling,
but they can
and
reach everything,
yeah.
and you can't
And
smack their hand.
yeah, yeah, and you can't carry them in a carrier, like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I took them to the doctor at the same time, mom and my mother-in-law. Took them to a doctor visit, and, oh my goodness, I mean, trying to get in the car was a challenge, and then trying to walk them in. I was holding hands with each of them, so you'd think that I could just walk in. No. My mom looks down at everything, so she's stopping at every crack. "Oh, what a cute little ladybug. Look at that." Everything along the way. My mother-in-law always looked up, so she's like, "Oh, look at the clouds. Aren't those pretty?" And they're both stopping and starting. Neither one of them is just walking. And so you're like, "I just wanna drag you in."
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh.
it was fun.
Well, what are some of the other, learning pieces in the caregiver's advocate? What are some of the other things that people are, helping caregivers with or helping them learn as they're going through this, themselves?
Oh, we have in volume one, we talk about showering techniques, which is so important because it's a
Oh,
challenge to get them into the shower. And when you understand what's happening in their brain, it makes it a little easier and then you can understand better. But it's hard in the beginning and through the middle, just when you don't have any idea what's going on. And I struggled with my mother in law, particularly with showering because she saw the mirror and thought that it was someone else looking at her, and she wanted me to take her clothes off in front of this other person, is what she was thinking, and I'm like, "Oh my," but once I figured that out, hang a sheet over the mirror and then we're okay. So we talk about things like that. We talk about how to when they're driving and they shouldn't be,
yeah.
that's also in volume 1, and there's so many different things. And volume 2 starts off with a bang with, Carlos, who is a taking care of his
Mhm.
dad who has Alzheimer's, and he still currently is. He lives in California, and he's gonna be in volume 3 also. And so he's just hilarious, the things that happen that he just shares, and he talks about how important your mindset is because mindset is critical. You have to find the joy. And that's what I talk to people about is finding the joy, finding the funny, letting go of the perfectionism. And then I also teach 5-minute stress reducers because caregivers have got to know ways to lower their stress. And again, we don't. I figured out, like what I would do is to go in the bathroom and lock the door so that I could have a little bit of peace and quiet. It's just like little kids, same thing. Go in the bathroom, lock the door, and then I sat down on the floor and just closed my eyes and thought of the beach because that's my happy place. And I just envisioned being there and hearing the sounds of the waves and feeling the sun on my face and feeling the sand beneath my feet. And so I went through the whole thing just imagining how it felt like. And it was a fantastic stress reducer. I didn't learn until like 3 years later that that's called visual imagery. And it's a
Mm,
very real stress reduction technique. And
yeah,
so now I teach people from that point, and I've got several of those on my website that are free for people to download also, because they're fantastic. Your brain doesn't know that you're not really there. And so it lets you absorb that relaxation and that calm to help you go forward. So stress reduction is huge. And there's everything. There's paperwork that caregivers need to make sure you have in place. There is
true.
nothing sadder than talking to a family and the person has already been diagnosed with dementia and they don't have the paperwork in order because then many times there's nothing you can do. They're not of sound mind. They can't sign paperwork anymore. So you've got to get your power of attorney, if nothing else, get a power of attorney in place. But there are other things. And so I had an elder law attorney in the first book and a financial expert and the financial planner wrote in the second book as well, talking about paperwork. You got to do this. You've got to make the plan. You have to get things put together as soon as you find out that there's a diagnosis and preferably before. But it covers everything, just a wide range of topics because
Yeah,
caregivers need so much and medication and when to do it and when not, and when to watch for, reactions and things. So
yeah, yeah.
very hands on.
Very, yeah, it seems very practical
Hmm.
tip for anyone going through that, just the things that they, may be struggling with or maybe don't know that they're going to be struggling with at some point, and, just to
Yes.
have that as a resource.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
Debbie, we will link to your book. We'll link to the Caregiver's Advocate Volume 1 and Volume 2 in the show notes. Tell us
Thank
how
you.
else viewers and listeners can get in touch with you or learn more about you and how you help people.
I would love it. My website is thepurplevine.com. And on the Purple Vine, you will find ways that you can sign up for my email list, which I hope you do. I only send it out one time a week because caregivers do not have time to sit around and read emails, and I know that. So I don't waste your time. That's my whole thing is coming from that perspective. Before I got my certifications, I learned by being in the trenches. Then I got my certifications and then I learned more and things that would have helped me back then. And that's where, that's why I really work so hard to teach people because knowledge is power. But I also have some online courses that caregivers can take at their leisure. You can stop and start whenever you want. You can do it at 2 a.m. It's fine. Whatever works for you, but it's training in different things to help you with stress reduction or to help you with communication or whatever the case may be. And so the Purple Vine, you'll find many, many articles on there also that are talking about different forms of dementia because that's my specialty. That's what I have experience in. The books are covering topics other than dementia as well. Dementia is in there, but it's also, a father taking care of a terminally ill child and a spousal
Yeah.
situation and all sorts of different situations.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't had a horrible, horrible experience there, but I just recently had my husband fell hurt his ankle, had to have surgery, but we went through, like, several months of him not being able to or several weeks of him not being able to walk. Then he could walk again, then he had to have the surgery, and so several weeks again of him not being able to walk, and it was just a tiny bit of caregiving, but it
Yeah.
gave me perspective on that
Yes.
because, when somebody can't walk,
Right.
there's a lot of things they can't do, and, even, like, he's the one who does laundry at our house, and it was like he couldn't carry the laundry basket, It's like, so I'm doing more than I normally would do on top of all the things that I normally do, and it was like, "Oh my gosh," like,
Uh-huh.
anyway, so yeah, the caregiving comes in different, at
Yes.
different stages with different, people in your family, so it's not just your parents, but, can
Right.
can come at other times. Well, Debbie, thank you so much for, coming on and sharing your books with us, and
Thank
just for the
you.
work that you do to help people because it's very necessary, so thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Thank you for having me.
Looking for a community of women writers to support and inspire you on your journey? Join the Author Power Circle. Connect weekly with fellow authors, stay accountable, and move your book forward in an encouraging community. Learn more at kellyshuckneck.com